Stop being ridiculous. There won't be a divorce. It's Mother's Day. That's what she shouted at me, right before delivering the rest like a Hallmark card written in hell. I just need one night away to remember who I am. After this, everything goes back to normal. Able to other men. We've been married for 25 years. It won't harm our marriage. It will strengthen it. Strengthen it. That's like saying arson improves home values. Then she slammed the door so hard the walls rattled like they'd just heard the punchline of a cosmic joke. A horn blared outside, long, deep, and smug. That horn didn't belong to any regular car. It was the kind that makes the whole street turn its head, a sound that means trouble just pulled up. I caught a glimpse through the blinds. A black Escalade, polished like sin, with chrome rims big enough to double as mirrors for Satan. And then he stepped out. A silhouette so large it looked like gravity worked harder on him than the rest of us. Big, dark, the kind of man who probably bends crowbars for fun and lists intimidation under special skills on his resume. And my wife, my once Sunday school sweetheart, waltzed right past me in heels that had no business in a woman who claimed her arches were shot from years of PDA meetings. She didn't even look back. Not a glance. Just strutted like a queen heading into battle with the cavalry waiting at the curb. The car door opened. She slid in. Slam. The Escalade purred away like a predator satisfied with its catch. And me? I stood in the hallway clutching a half-eaten Mother's Day cake like an idiot. Strawberry shortcake. Her favorite. Bought it that morning. Wrote to the love of my life on top in red icing like some tragic punchline to a joke the universe loves telling. For 10 seconds, I just stood there, staring at the door. My brain was buffering like bad Wi-Fi. Then something in me clicked. Not the kind of click you get when you finally understand taxes. No. This was the sound of a fuse catching fire deep in the soul of a man who's been polite for too long. I set the cake down gently, like a surgeon with a bomb, then walked to the basement. Each step felt heavier than the last, the house eerily quiet except for the hum of the old freezer. I reached the bottom, flicked the light, and there it was, the workbench. Dusty. Forgotten. Waiting. You see, I'm not a violent man. Never been in a fight, never so much as keyed a car. But life has a way of making you pack for emergencies. And some men pack umbrellas. Others pack raincoats. Me? I packed something else. I reached under the bench, fingers brushing cold steel, and pulled it out slowly. The weight was comforting, like shaking hands with an old friend you swore you'd never call again. As I stood there in that dim basement glow, one thought crystallized in my mind, clear as church bells on Sunday morning. If she wanted a night she'd never forget, fine. But tonight wasn't about her choices anymore. It was about mine. You ever notice how the movies always make the revenge guy grab a gun? Too easy. Too quick. Too expected. And that's not me. I'm not Rambo. I'm a 52-year-old man with lower back issues and a Costco membership. My weapon of choice? Something poetic. Something that says, I've thought this through while standing in the Home Depot aisle at 10 p.m. So I didn't grab the shotgun. Didn't even touch the Louisville Slugger leaning in the corner. Though for a hot second, I pictured myself standing over Escalade guy, like Babe Ruth of broken marriages. No, what I grabbed was sitting in a long, rectangular case tucked behind old Christmas decorations, a relic from a life I almost forgot I had. I popped the latches, and there it was, my Martin acoustic guitar. The same one I used to serenade her with back in '98 when we thought love was bulletproof and credit cards were magic. That guitar had seen better days, strings dull, wood faded, but tonight it wasn't for music. It was for memory. Because here's the plan that hit me right there in the basement. If she wants a night to prove she's desirable, then I want a night to prove I'm unforgettable. You see, women don't just fall for men because they're desirable. They fall for moments. Big, dramatic, heart-stopping moments. And I was about to give her one. Just not the kind she was expecting. I slung the strap over my shoulder and headed upstairs, strumming a single chord that echoed like a war cry through the empty house. My reflection in the hallway mirror stopped me cold. I looked like a man on a mission, a middle-aged Avenger armed with nostalgia and bad intentions. First order of business, wardrobe change. I wasn't about to make my grand move in cargo shorts and a faded best dad ever t-shirt. No, tonight called for something darker, sleeker, something that said, You messed with the wrong suburban samurai. I tore through the closet like a raccoon in a dumpster until I found it. The old leather jacket she always hated because it smelled like a biker bar. Perfect. I slid it on, zipped it halfway, and paired it with my cleanest pair of jeans. No cologne, just sweat and spite. And then I made the call. Not to her. Oh no, that would have been predictable. I dialed a different number. A voice answered on the second ring, smooth as bourbon and twice as dangerous. Yeah, it's me, I said. Remember that favor you owe me? A low chuckle. Thought you'd never ask. I gave him the address of the bar where I knew they'd end up, the Velvet Horn, a place so dimly lit it could hide a nuclear meltdown. Then I hung up and stared at the guitar in my hand like it was Excalibur. This wasn't about violence. This was about theater. About turning her perfect little fantasy night into a Greek tragedy she'd never forget. But just as I stepped toward the door, something stopped me. Not doubt. Not fear. It was a sound. A faint, rapid tapping at the kitchen window. I turned slowly, heart thudding like a snare drum. And there, in the glow of the porch light, stood the last person I ever expected to see at my house tonight. Tap, tap, tap. Soft. Almost polite. Like whoever was out there didn't want to wake the neighbors, but wanted to wake me. I froze mid-step, the guitar hanging from my shoulder like a question mark. My first thought. Her. Maybe she forgot her purse, her phone, her sanity. Maybe she'd had a change of heart before Mr. Escalade's leather seats could warm up. But no, that wasn't her silhouette in the glass. Too tall, too square. I moved closer, every nerve jangling like a power line in a storm. The porch light carved him into focus, and my stomach dropped straight through the basement floor. It was my son. Yeah, him. The one who swore he'd never show up unannounced again after last Thanksgiving's blow-up about politics, turkey, and who really paid for his college books. He stood there now in a gray hoodie, face tight with something between fury and panic. I cracked the door. Connor? What the hell are you? Dad. He cut me off, his voice low and urgent. Where's Mom? That question hit like a sucker punch. Out, I said carefully. Why? He glanced over his shoulder like someone might be watching from the bushes, then stepped inside before I could object. His sneakers left damp prints on the tile. He smelled like rain and adrenaline. Out with who? He demanded, his eyes scanning the living room, the half-eaten cake, the silence that hung like smoke. I gripped the guitar tighter. What's this about, Connor? His jaw worked, like he was chewing on words too bitter to swallow. Finally, he spat it out. She's been texting me all day. Weird stuff. Talking about making big choices, about finally being free. I thought she was drinking, but then he stopped, digging his phone out of his pocket with trembling hands. You need to see this. He shoved the screen at me. A text from my wife, time-stamped 40 minutes ago. If anything happens tonight, tell your father I'm sorry. He'll understand. My throat went dry. If anything happens? I read aloud. Connor nodded, eyes wide. Dad, do you know who she's with? I started to answer, and then headlights swept across the front windows, flooding the room in white. Tires crunched gravel. An engine rumbled low, like a growl from the throat of something hungry. The Escalade was back. Connor stiffened. That him? Yeah, I whispered. We both stood frozen as the driver's door opened with a slow creak, the kind directors use in horror films right before the monster steps out. And when he unfolded from that car, towering and broad, I realized two things at once. One, this wasn't just some fling. And two, the night's script had just been rewritten, because the man walking toward my house wasn't a stranger. It was someone I knew, someone I trusted, someone who made my blood run cold the second his face hit the light. He stepped into the light like a storm cloud growing legs. Broad shoulders, a jaw like a wrecking ball, and a calmness that chilled me more than rage ever could. Connor saw my face and whispered, Dad, you know him? Oh, I knew him. Too well. It was Marcus, my oldest friend, my best man at our wedding, the guy who held my firstborn, this same son now standing behind me, in his arms at the hospital, and said, I've got your back for life, brother. For life. Funny choice of words. And now he was striding up my driveway like he owned it, wearing that same smug half-grin I'd seen in high school when he scored the winning touchdown and all the girls screamed his name. Some things never change. But this This was different. This wasn't a beer run or a poker night. This was a declaration. My grip on the guitar strap tightened until my knuckles burned. Connor hissed, "What the hell is going on?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. One lazy press. Ding dong. Almost mocking, like he knew I was standing there shaking with something between fury and disbelief. I opened the door slow, my face a mask of calm I didn't feel. "Marcus," I said, my voice low. "Long time." He grinned wider. "Hey, brother." His eyes flicked to Connor. "Didn't know the kid was home. You grown now, huh?" Connor's fists curled at his sides. "What are you doing here?" Marcus looked back at me, his expression turning solemn, like this was a sacred errand. "She forgot her phone," he said, holding up a sleek little device like an offering. "Figured I'd bring it back before we head out again." Head out again. The words hit like a crowbar. "You're the guy," I said. Not a question. A verdict. Marcus shrugged, all nonchalance and muscle. "Guess I am. Didn't want you finding out like this, but you know how life goes." I laughed then. Couldn't help it. A short, sharp bark of sound that made Connor flinch. "Life goes." "Marcus, you were at my wedding. You toasted our anniversary last year. Hell, you borrowed my truck last month to move your gym equipment." "Yeah," he said, completely unashamed. "And while I was at it, I figured I'd move your wife too." Connor lunged. I caught him by the arm before he could cross the threshold. My son's face was red with fury, eyes blazing like mine used to when I was his age, back before life taught me to swallow the fire. But not tonight. Tonight, the fire came back. I stepped out onto the porch, guitar still slung over my shoulder like a warrior's blade. Marcus glanced at it and smirked. "What's that for? Gonna sing me a breakup song?" I took one slow step toward him and whispered, "No, Marcus. I'm gonna make sure tonight hits a note you'll never forget." His grin faltered for the first time. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down. A text from her. 5 words that turned my blood to ice. "It's not what you think." And before I could process that, another car pulled into the driveway. Tires screeching, lights blazing. A sleek black sedan. Windows tinted. The kind you see in movies when things are about to get biblical. Marcus turned. His jaw tightened. "Damn it," he muttered. Connor frowned. "Who the hell is that?" Marcus didn't answer. But when the back door of that car opened and the man stepped out, I realized this night wasn't about an affair anymore. It was about survival. The door opened with a soft click, but the presence that stepped out was louder than a gunshot in a library. Tall, suited, and carrying an umbrella. Not because it was raining, but because men like him treat umbrellas as walking sticks for authority. The streetlight caught the gleam of his cufflinks. "Not your average Sunday driver." Marcus muttered under his breath. "This can't be happening." That got my attention. If a man like Marcus, built like a linebacker and smug enough to hit on his best friend's wife, was nervous, something biblical was brewing. "Marcus," the newcomer said in a voice like silk stretched over steel. "You're late." Marcus stiffened. Plans changed. The man gave a small smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. They usually do when people start thinking for themselves. He flicked his gaze toward me, then Connor. "And you must be the husband." His tone was cordial, like he was greeting a maitre d' at a restaurant, but every syllable dripped with the kind of calm that makes your gut whisper run. Connor stepped forward, bristling. "Who the hell are you?" The man ignored him. Instead, he reached into his coat, not fast, not slow, just deliberate enough to make my pulse spike, and pulled out a manila envelope. Thick, heavy. He held it like a preacher with a Bible. "This," he said, handing it to me, "is what your wife didn't tell you." I stared at it, frozen. My name was written on the front in neat black ink. No return address. Just 4 words. "For your eyes only." I looked up, my mouth dry. "What is this?" "Her insurance policy," he said simply. "For when things went bad." Connor's voice cracked like a whip. "Bad how?" The man finally looked at him, his eyes cold as Arctic ice. The kind of bad where people disappear. And then, as if on cue, another text buzzed on my phone. From her again. 8 words this time. "Do not trust Marcus." Or the man in black. I stared at the screen, then at Marcus, then at the stranger who was now scanning my house like he was mentally rearranging the furniture for a crime scene. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, my voice raw. The man smiled thinly. "Why don't you open the envelope and find out?" My fingers hesitated over the flap. Then a deafening bang shattered the night. Gunshot. Glass exploded somewhere behind me. Connor hit the floor. Marcus swore and reached for his waistband. And just like that, the quiet suburban evening turned into a war zone. The shot rang out so loud it felt like it cracked the night in half. I dropped to the floor, dragging Connor with me as shards of glass rained down from the kitchen window. The envelope flew from my hands, skidding across the tile like a guilty secret trying to escape. Marcus was already crouched behind the doorframe, gun drawn. Yeah, he was packing. Guess we weren't the only ones planning a dramatic evening. Stay down, he barked, peering through the shattered glass. I wanted to shout, since when are you giving orders in my house, Judas? But words weren't lining up in my brain because the suited man, the human thundercloud, wasn't flinching. He calmly stepped behind the sedan, as if gunfire was just light background music. Connor's face was pale. Dad, what the hell is happening? Tuesday night bingo gone wrong, I muttered, crawling toward the envelope like it was the last life preserver on the Titanic. My fingers closed around it just as another shot cracked the air, this one sparking against the porch column inches from Marcus's head. He swore again. They weren't supposed to move this fast. I snapped. What the hell have you dragged into my driveway, Marcus? He didn't answer, which told me plenty. I tore open the envelope with shaking hands, half expecting divorce papers or maybe a love note. Nope. My stomach knotted as I pulled out photographs. Not of Marcus. Not even of my wife. These were grainy shots of faces I didn't know, men in suits, some at airports, some at boardroom tables. And stapled to the back, a bank statement showing an account in the Cayman Islands with 7 figures and my wife's maiden name on it. Connor leaned over my shoulder. Dad, is that? Money, I said flatly. A hell of a lot of money. And then I saw the handwritten note tucked inside. If you're reading this, it means they know. Marcus isn't who you think. Trust no one. Get Connor and run. Before I could process that, Marcus yanked me up by the collar. We're leaving. Now. I wrenched free. Not until you tell me what the hell is going on. His jaw clenched. Your wife, she got involved in something big. Offshore accounts. People who don't forgive mistakes. That guy out there, he's not here to talk. He's here to clean up. As if on cue, another car screeched into the cul-de-sac. Black SUV, tinted windows, and the kind of headlights that scream bad news. Doors flew open, and men spilled out like shadows armed with steel. Connor's breath hitched. Dad, I grabbed his arm. Get to the basement. Now. Marcus shook his head. Too late for hiding. And that's when I realized 2 things. My wife's Mother's Day adventure wasn't about proving she was desirable. It was about disappearing. The guitar slung on my shoulder? It wasn't going to play any love songs tonight. Chaos has a sound. It isn't just gunfire. It's boots pounding pavement, the slam of doors, and Marcus shouting words I can't print because my son was in earshot. Connor froze for half a second, wide-eyed like a deer on the freeway. Basement, I barked, shoving him toward the door. He bolted, sneakers slipping on shattered glass. Good kid. He didn't argue. Marcus whipped around, gun raised, eyes wild. They'll come through the back and front, split fast. But me? I wasn't running. Not yet. Not until I knew why my wife left me a note that sounded like the prologue to a Netflix thriller. The first man slipped through the back door like a shadow, weapon drawn. I reacted on instinct. The shot landed, and he dropped fast. No time to think. Just move. That was when the others hit the front. The door blew inward, and 3 men stormed in like a SWAT team from hell. I swung the guitar case off my back and popped it open. Marcus glanced over his shoulder mid-firefight, expecting to see a Martin acoustic ready for a serenade. Instead, his jaw went slack. Because inside wasn't a guitar. It was a composite crossbow, matte black, with carbon bolts tucked neatly in foam cutouts. My old obsession from the archery league, back when hobbies didn't require bail money. I hadn't touched it in years, but some skills don't rust. Marcus blinked. Jesus, Tom. Wrong name, I said, sliding a bolt into place with a click. Tonight, I'm Robin Hood. The first guy through the door raised his weapon. I loosed a shot, and the bolt buried itself in his thigh. He screamed, toppled into the second guy, and they both went down in a tangle of limbs. The third hesitated, That was his mistake. Second shot, dead center of his shoulder. Down he went. Holy, Marcus cut himself off and fired another round past my ear, dropping the fourth man who tried to flank us through the kitchen. You always keep that in your basement? He asked, eyes wide. Some guys collect stamps, I said, reloading. But the suited man, the umbrella-carrying specter, still hadn't moved from behind the sedan. He just watched through the open door, calm as a cat in a sunbeam, while his men bled on my floor. Then he smiled. And that smile chilled me worse than the gunfire. Because it said, you're not playing defense anymore. You just joined the game. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text from her. If you're still alive, don't let Marcus take you. He's working for both sides. I looked up and found Marcus already staring at me. Gun raised. Not at the intruders. At me. Marcus's arm didn't tremble. That was the first thing I noticed. Not a shake, not a flicker. Just steady steel aimed square at my chest. Put it down, Tom, he said softly, like a man trying to soothe a wild animal. Crossbow on the floor. Nice and easy. I stared at him, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. You planning to add murder your best friend to your resume tonight? He smirked, but his eyes were colder than the night outside. You're not listening. This isn't about us. It never was. Then what the hell is it about? That. He flicked the muzzle of his gun toward the envelope on the floor, the one with the photos and bank statements scattered like confetti across broken glass. That's worth more than every house on this block combined. And she, he paused, chuckling darkly. She got greedy, made a deal she couldn't keep. I tightened my grip on the crossbow. You slept with her for this. He shook his head. I didn't touch her. The words hit me harder than the gun aimed at my chest. What? That hole. I need to feel desirable garbage she fed you. It was cover. She knew this day was coming. Knew we'd come looking. She wanted you distracted. Angry. Predictable. My mouth went dry. Predictable for what? Marcus's smile vanished. For the part where you die in a shootout. Hero husband. Wrong place. Wrong time. Real tragic stuff. A sound creaked behind me. The basement door. Connor. My stomach lurched as I pictured him walking up into this mess. Marcus's gaze shifted. Just for a second. That was all I needed. I dropped, rolled hard across the glass, and came up firing. The bolt sang through the air and buried itself in the doorframe inches from his shoulder. He swore and squeezed the trigger. Splinters exploded from the wall where my head had been a heartbeat earlier. I scrambled behind the couch, heart hammering like a drum solo. So what now, Marcus? You kill me, clean up the mess, and play golf with Mystery Man out there? He didn't answer, just fired again. Thunk, thunk, the bullets tearing through upholstery like angry bees. I risked a glance toward the doorway. The suited man was still standing there, calm as a chess master waiting for his opponent to blunder. And that scared me more than the bullets. Because if Marcus was the pawn, this guy was the king. Another text buzzed on my phone. From her. Just 2 words this time. Check the case. I blinked, then glanced at the guitar case lying open beside me. Crossbow foam, bolts, and something else. A small, black object tucked deep in the lining. How'd I miss that? I reached in, fingers closing around cold metal, and felt my world tilt on its axis. It wasn't a weapon. It was a keycard. Bright red. Stamped with the logo of a bank I'd only ever seen in documentaries about offshore accounts. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a murder. This wasn't even about money. This was about access. And my wife had just made me the gatekeeper. The keycard gleamed in my palm, blood red and humming with silent power, like a devil's business card. Offshore bank logo stamped dead center. My pulse spiked as the puzzle pieces started snapping together. Marcus saw it too. His eyes widened, not with surprise, but with hunger. She gave it to you? He said, voice low and razor sharp. I tucked it into my fist, lifting the crossbow in my other hand. Guess she trusts me more than you. Marcus barked a laugh. You think this is about trust? That card doesn't just unlock an account, Tom. It unlocks leverage. Names. Deals. Skeletons so big they need mansions to hide in. You could topple governments with what's behind that key. Great, I said. I'll use it to cancel my gym membership. Marcus's grin died. Give me the card. Or what? I snapped. His gun barrel answered for him, rising steady and deliberate. Behind him, through the shattered doorway, I saw the suited man step closer. He didn't rush. Didn't need to. This was his game, and he knew every rule. But before Marcus could pull the trigger, a voice split the tension like a lightning strike. "Drop it, Marcus." It wasn't me. It wasn't the guy outside. It was her. My wife stepped out from the shadows of the hallway, heels clicking like gunfire, a black coat cinched tight at the waist. Her hair was wet, rain or sweat. I couldn't tell, but her eyes? Sharp enough to cut glass. And in her hand? A compact pistol that looked disturbingly at home there. Connor gasped from the basement stairs. "Mom!" Marcus didn't even flinch. He just smirked, gun still aimed at me. "About time, darling. Thought you were going to make me do all the heavy lifting." She raised the pistol, unwavering. "Move your hand off the trigger, Marcus. Now." His smirk widened. "Or what? You'll shoot me? Please. You're not that cold." Her voice dropped to a whisper that froze my veins. "Try me." For the first time tonight, Marcus hesitated. And in that heartbeat of silence, the suited man outside finally spoke. "Enough," he said, stepping into the house like a judge entering court. "This has gone far enough." Everyone froze. Even the night seemed to hold its breath. "You have two options," he continued, voice calm as ever. "Hand me the card, and I make this quick. Or keep playing heroes and watch this house burn, with all of you inside." He wasn't bluffing. I could feel it. This wasn't just a threat. It was a promise, gift wrapped in velvet. My wife turned to me slowly, her eyes locking on mine. "Tom," she said softly, almost pleading now. "Give me the card. Trust me, one last time." One last time. 25 years of marriage hung on those words like a man on a ledge. And that's when I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about choosing a side. I stood there, crossbow in one hand, keycard burning in the other, feeling 25 years of my life teeter on a knife's edge. Marcus aimed at me. My wife aimed at Marcus. The suited man, calm, patient, might as well have been death in a tailored coat. Connor's breath shook behind me. The silence was a taut wire, ready to snap. "Tick-tock, Tom," Marcus said, his grin shark-like. "Be a hero or a corpse, your call." My wife's voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. "Don't listen to him. Give me the card. Please." Trust her? After tonight? After that speech about just one time, and slamming the door like I was yesterday's trash? My jaw clenched. "You want the truth, Tom?" Marcus's voice dropped to a low growl. "She started this. She recruited me. Said she needed an inside man. Said you were too soft to survive this world." "Shut up," she hissed, eyes blazing. He chuckled. "What? You didn't tell him? That this whole little Mother's Day stunt was cover for an 8-figure heist?" He nodded toward the suited man. "She ripped off his boss. And guess what, brother? You were the patsy." I turned to her. "Is it true?" She swallowed. "I was trying to protect us, Tom. They were going to take everything. I needed leverage." "Leverage?" My voice cracked like dry wood. "You blew up our life for leverage?" Before she could answer, the suited man sighed, an exhale that sounded almost bored. "Enough," he said, drawing something from his coat. Not a gun. Something worse. A small black device with a single blinking red light. A detonator. "This house has 2 minutes left," he said softly. "Card. Now." Connor gasped. "Dad." Time slowed. I felt it in my bones. If I handed over that card, we'd live maybe. But we'd always be prey. If I kept it, we'd die right here. Unless I rewrote the ending. I glanced down at the crossbow, at the guitar case beside me, at the foam lining. Something sparked in my head like a match to gasoline. "Connor," I said, my voice low. "Basement. Fuse box. Kill the lights. Now." He ran. Good kid. Always listens when it counts. The house plunged into darkness a second later, and chaos erupted. Marcus fired blindly. Boom. Boom. The muzzle flashes strobing like lightning. My wife dove for cover. The suited man didn't flinch, just raised that detonator high like a conductor ready for the final note. But I was already moving. Muscle memory took over. I loosed a bolt, fast and silent. It hit home with a sickening thunk, and the detonator clattered to the floor. The lights flickered back on just in time for me to see Marcus charging, fury etched in every line of his face. I swung the guitar case like a warhammer. It cracked across his jaw, dropping him cold. My wife crawled toward the detonator, but I got there first. Snatched it up. And then silence. Just our ragged breathing. The suited man slumped against the wall, the bolt buried in his shoulder like a punctuation mark. Alive, but out of the game. I turned to her. She knelt there, hair wild, eyes wet, not with guilt, with rage. "Tom," she whispered, "give me the card. We can still fix this." I stared at her for a long, burning moment. Then I tossed the keycard onto the floor between us, watched her lunge for it like a starving wolf. And when her fingers closed around it, I walked past her, past Marcus's unconscious body, past the suited man groaning in pain. Connor stood at the basement door, pale and shaking. "Dad, what now?" I looked at him, at the wreckage of our home, at the woman I thought I knew clutching a ticket to a life I never wanted. And I said, calm as the night before the storm, "Now, we disappear." I snatched the device, pressed the trigger, and the night lit up in a blaze that turned everything behind us into nothing but slime. Epilogue, 2 weeks later. Somewhere in Montana, a man in a leather jacket sips black coffee at a diner, his son across the booth scrolling through job listings. The TV above the counter hums with breaking news. Authorities investigate international banking scandal. Several high-profile disappearances under scrutiny. The man smiles faintly, a crossbow case leaning against the booth like an old friend. And for the first time in 25 years, he feels free.